this workshop is hosted by the Fall Training Conference Committee. So we based off our theme on mystery. Okay, so to start, I'm Olivia. I go to Cal State Long Beach. I'm a graphic design major, and I currently serve as the Cal State Long Beach president. Cal State Long Beach? Yeah, Cal State Long Beach president, as well as this past year, I was the Fall Training Conference chair. And before that, I served at my home club as the fundraising chair, as well as the Fall Training Conference Committee, like for the past 2 years before I was chair, and the International Expansion Committee as the secretary and the member. And fun fact is, I love playing Tetris. Yes.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I go to UCI, I'm a 4th year, and I'm a public health policy major. And the previous positions I had in Circle K, most recently I was Sergeant at Arms Chair for FTC, and I'm also a EA for Citrus on DLT. And on club level, I served on several ad hoc committees, and I was VPS and single service chair. And a fun fact, I own 17 pairs of Disney ears. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Jason. I go to University of Nevada, Reno, and I'm a bio major. Recently, I was a Spring Capital Large Scale Service Project Committee co-chair. And then before that, I was FTC Team Activities Chair. And then at the same time, I was also VPS. And then I was a Spirit Social Chair on the CLSSP committee before that. And fun fact, I have spent over 160 hours on Animal Crossing.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I also go to Cal State Long Beach. I'm also a bio major, and I was the Fall Training Conference Workshops co-chair this past term, and I previously served as Long Beach's BPA and treasurer before that. And then fun fact, I love peanuts. JK, I'm allergic to peanuts, but I love all foods.
Okay, to get started, we're gonna talk about types of events. So small scale and large scale. I'll be talking about small scale. So small scale, you guys probably know if you go to an event, but it's mostly recurring tabletops, your weekly service projects, service marathons. Those are smaller scale service events. And then socials, your club socials, after socials, fundraisers, the ones you can do weekly, Happy Sad Change, and then Kiwanis, Appreciation Day and takeovers. And then for interclubbing, the smaller service ones, where we do with other CCATs or key clubs and stuff like that. Yeah. So those are generally less than 50 people in attendance. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess going off of that, I feel like smaller scale would be less than 30, because Alicia's actually from a super big club, like UC Irvine, with 200 members. But yeah, large scale event. So examples of large scale events, which are more rare, I would say, are we call them district-wide events. Basically but they're more club hosted. So Masquerade Ball is hosted by UC San Diego, but it's open to the whole district. And then Kids Rock, which is hosted by UC Riverside, and then Go West, which is Rose Float Decorating, and it's hosted by Pasadena City College. Those are just some examples. I know UNLV, they do Serenade and March Melody. Yeah, another example, other examples of large scale events is your member inductions and your board retreats, your club retreats. These all require some sort of planning. And also your key to college and key to life if you do that, and also your end of the year banquets.
So going into planning an event, there are key points that you should make while leading up to your big O event. So first, we'll talk about each one of these points. And the first one is setting up your team. Two is brain blast, so planning early, that's always important. And then next is finalizing your plan. And then moving on, the next step would be advertising your event because you want to get your word out to have people come. And then, of course, is the big day, which is D-Day. And then lastly is just reflecting on your event. So we'll go over each one of these.
So to begin off, setting up your team. When it comes to planning an event, you want a team to help you plan and organize what's going to be going on. So how are you going to get your team together based on how you want to send out applications and get members to apply to join your team. So you could do just like a general Google form and have people fill it out. Or you could have like a document such as like applying, if you applied for a district committee position, they have like, it's all official and there's like CKI logos everywhere and so many questions, and you'll be received through email. Or if you're on a board, you can ask your board members for assistance, and after you've completed and have your team set up, there are multiple ways to have communication throughout the whole committee. So we could use Slack, and it's like a professional Discord where there's different channels for different discussions that you can have. And Trello is a way to organize your to-do list. So you could see what members of your committee are working on and when they're completing it or when they're planning to do it. And having meetings on Zoom if you're not able to have meetings in person.
Yeah, so definitely like not all event planning requires like a committee or team, but these are just like, I guess, a general like guideline if you do like a bigger event. And then for brain blast, like planning early, the next step after forming your team, I feel like the most important part of coming up with an event is definitely thinking about the who, when, what, why, and where. So who the event is intended for, thinking about like, who your target audience is, if you want it to be more like for returning members, general members, or like, the newer members. If you want this event to be like more large scale, if you want to like reach out to like, other divisions, you need to fill out an event request form. If it's like key to college or key to life, actually I'm not sure about key to life, but if it's like key to college where you're reaching out to a key club, you need, they're basically like students, like younger students, so you definitely need to fill out an event request form. And basically when you fill out an event request form, you need to have the details of the event and actual like itinerary of what you're gonna do. And then you need to have 2 adults, either a Kiwanis advisor or faculty advisor who will be there, as well as, I know like for some events you need like, I think maybe it's most of them, you need like a waiver and medical form. For Long Beach, when we had our Awake-a-thon, we definitely needed a waiver, especially since it was an overnight event. And yeah. And then after you have the event form, the event request form filled out, I think you have to email it to Armando Velasquez, our district administrator, for approval, as well as your divisional regional advisor. Regional advisor. But yeah, you could always talk to your lieutenant governor more about that. And then for another like part of event planning, I feel that is really important is, choosing your date, because definitely you have to think about like possible conflicting dates and events. like when you would get the most amount of member attendance. There's like other, like there's always something going on. It's like, okay, like there's STC in November, there's like CKI South in October, and like other schools have other events as well that people might go out to. So definitely, I think choosing a date and location is probably the hardest part of event planning. Like especially location, without a venue, like there's no event. Yeah, so making sure that you have those like set in stone before you actually get into the details is really important. And then activities planned for the event, making sure like like what you want to do. And that depends on whether it's a service, fundraising, or social event.
So alongside with planning early, your budget is also really important, especially if you need to buy supplies or such as like food or decorations. So it's good to work alongside with your treasurer and just knowing how much you can spend from your funds. And if you need to fundraise for the event, then that's also something to consider, like fundraising a couple months prior to the event, or maybe like a week or two, just like whatever you guys can do if you do need the extra money. And then another thing to consider is if members need to pay for the event or if there's an event fee. So I know some events that have members pay are probably like banquets or like CKI South is one of them, STC obviously. And so that's something to take into consideration. And lastly, for budgeting, will you be making profit from this event? So this goes alongside with like fundraising, if you want to do like on-site fundraising, or if the money that members pay to attend your event will go back to your club. So these are all very important budget aspects that you should consider while planning an event, like big or small. And then next is your timeline. So we kind of mentioned this earlier, so just like staying organized with what you need to do next, like, and what's your next step after you finish one. And then being aware of possible conflicting events. Olivia did mention this, just planning around like district events or maybe like divisional events such as like DCMs. You don't want your like, say, large scale event land on the same day as a DCM, then that would probably hurt your event and someone would need a compromise. So just knowing like what your schedule is in the upcoming months is good to know too.
And then the next step is finalizing the plan. So like the logistical kind of side of your event. So you really want to make sure you're going through your event and like through each activity you're doing or each aspect of what you're going to do throughout your event. And like through your itinerary, you can do that. And then just prepping materials, making sure everything is like in line, you have everything you need, double checking with outside parties. This is super important to keep communication with people that you'll be working with, and just making sure everyone knows what's going on and you're sticking to your schedule. And then activities and entertainment, yeah, just finalizing that kind of stuff. And food, love food, making sure we know who's bringing food and like the logistics of that, making sure no one's bringing like the same things, and decorations, making sure those are done and prepped and ready. Yeah.
After you finish finalizing your plan, you want to advertise it to get members to come out to your event. So to start off with, graphics is really important. To have graphics, you could always reach out to your district, not just, first off, divisional CNM committee, but if they're not able to, I know CNH on the website, if you go to under committees and communications and marketing, they have a graphic request form that you can submit 2 weeks prior and getting those in. And if they aren't able to get in time, or like your you're kind of behind on stuff and you can't submit it 2 weeks beforehand, a really great website to use is Canva to make your own graphics. Wonderful website. And then after that, contacting other clubs to have them advertise on their Facebook page as well, and assigning committee members for each club so they could advertise, so you wouldn't have to, so one person doesn't post in like 8 different schools. You could delegate the tasks between committee members. And then personal outreach is the #1 key. Like if you keep constantly like asking people, hey, can you come out to the event? They'll be more willing to come out and help and support your event that you plan. And then Facebook page, setting up a sign-up sheet through Google Form or just Facebook itself. And you can advertise through other social media outlets like Instagram stories or posts.
Yeah, so definitely like setting out like a calendar, a publicity calendar definitely helps. Like for FTC FTC the past 3 years, we had like a really elaborate publicity plan of, oh, like this day we're gonna post like this. And also it like really helps with like making sure that we're not spamming the page with too many posts as well. I know our club, Long Beach, and we have a Slack channel just for posting in the group page. So basically everyone would have to get approved by our public relations chair in order to post. And we try to keep the posts like 2 to 3 hours apart. But yeah, just like making sure you're spacing out your posts and they don't really like overlap with like other events you're trying to advertise as well.
So just some side points to keep in mind. Having a checklist with things that you need to do, maybe things that people need to bring, like someone who's bringing the decorations or someone who's bringing the food, just a checklist like that, and like making sure that everything that you need to have done is done before the event so you can have a successful event. And then another thing is to have an event schedule, not just having like a simple itinerary with like what you're gonna do, but having like specific time slots and breaks for the whole event, so you know that you're running it on time and smoothly. And then, of course, preparing for a backup plan. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe you'll be in a pandemic and then you wouldn't know what to do. But having a backup plan is a really great idea to have, because you never know what things might come up during your event. So it's always good to be extra prepared.
Okay, and then doomsday. So basically this is like the day of the event. So definitely be with having everything ready beforehand. The day of the event is basically when you're not planning anything. You're mostly just like checking in with your like committee members or your team, making sure that everything's going fine, that you have all the materials. I would say it's more like behind the scenes, like more like monitoring, and like I would say like this is where like you should be relaxed, even though you probably are like hella like nervous and stressed. Definitely with like setting up like a backup plan and everything, and making sure that you're well prepared will lead to a really successful event.
And then after your event, first you breathe and you just like after your event, don't like think too much about it, and you just want to recap your event, like what are the pluses and deltas of your event, like how it went overall. And then if it's service, if you've done tabletop, kind of where to donate your supplies, just like the logistical stuff of that, who's going to take home what stuff. For fundraising, you can post like calculate the money you earned and where the funds are going to, and post that on your pages. And then thanking your attendees for coming out and like giving that recognition that the people deserve, and just making sure that I don't know, just recapping your event and possible if there are sequels to your event, just making like publicizing that in the future. And then yeah, pluses and deltas with your committee or your group or team. Yeah. And simp.
Alicia's really good at simping. But, yeah, something we do with like a lot of the events that I plan, definitely make sure that you're brainstorming pluses and deltas, because not every event is perfect. There's always room for improvement, and this will also this feedback will help future years as well as the years after that, and yeah. So, final thoughts and personal trauma. Uh, who wants to start? Jason, you recently had an event, the Capital Large Scale Service Project. You want to talk about that?
I would say finding the location was really stressful. We found one last minute, but like I'd say just like find a location like way beforehand. We were able to find one really luckily like a few days before, because it was so hard contacting schools and getting back, and it was just like a longer process than we thought. So finding a location and finalizing that months or even weeks beforehand will help you get rid of a lot of stress.
Okay, yeah, jumping off of that, like for fall training conference, for like district events, is definitely easy for location because it's already like been set. But like for like club wise, I feel like it's locations more like on the harder side. Like if you want to like interclub with a different like club, you would have to maybe find like a middle ground for both clubs. I know for me, when I was fundraising chair, when we were planning a wake-a-thon, that was like the hardest part of that was definitely location, because first it was an overnight event and a lot of places charge like really really high costs, but like I think a really good resource you can go to is your Kiwanians, of course. So making sure that you're keeping like really good relationships with your Kiwanis, and like they're like people who like are like really active, I'd say, in the community. So I knew like there's some of our Kiwanians who like worked with the YMCA, and like someone got us like, we actually like the church we got was actually like they only charged us $1 per person, which was super cheap. So I think definitely like making those connections, and you could also like reach out for like grants and stuff.
Also, when it comes to planning events, I'd say setting goals is really helpful when it comes to these things. So you like at least if it doesn't go out the way you plan it, at least you know that you've at least accomplished the goal that you set for yourself. So like fundraising, setting up a goal for how much you want to fundraise, and then as like a goal for how much you want to set aside for if you are fundraising for DFI or fundraising for supplies to do a DSI for like 24 service hours marathons. But goals really help you through things and keep you on track.
Kathleen, do you want to talk about like planning your board retreat or winter retreat?
Sure. So I think for planning retreats, planning ahead of time, like way ahead of time, is super important, especially because, well, at least for Long Beach, we book Airbnbs at the locations that we want. So we usually do this like more than a month advance in ahead of time, just because just like finalizing which Airbnb is the best for that event, or sometimes it gets booked before we even decide. So just having like the location set and ready is really important. And also with these retreats, having an itinerary and event event schedule was really crucial, because you don't want people to be bored during this like 3-day, 2-night event. So definitely working with your other board members and planning like icebreakers, games, like when we're gonna eat, when we're gonna hang out, or just like free time is really important, especially for these long events.
And then Alicia, you held multiple positions. I know you had trauma for your 24 service marathon.
Yeah, I don't know if it's trauma, but I think I was just underprepared for the amount of people that were going to come, because UCI is such a big club. But just like kind of having that checklist that Kathleen was talking about, and making sure you're going through everything is like super important. And then your team, making sure your team knows what they're doing too, and like their kind of like responsibilities throughout the event is also important. And I've also done a fundraising event it's called Hunger Over Easy at UCI. And for that, I think I just needed to remember to breathe throughout your event, because everything may seem chaotic at the moment, but like everything's just going somewhat smoothly, and it's not like the end of the world if something happens. And just making sure to remember to breathe throughout your event, and kind of, I don't know, yes, yay.
Yeah. Damn, I keep saying definitely, but definitely. I always tell my board officers to plan 3 months, like at least 3 months in advance for event planning, and that's a really like good guideline to go off of, because you really have to start early, because anything could happen, and even if you have like a plan B or something, not everything's going to go your way. So I think during like the event, like Doomsday, like definitely it's good to just remain calm. And I guess for like FTC, like it really helped that I guess I was able to adapt to changes really easily. But yeah, moving on. Do you guys have any questions? I don't know how this is gonna work. Maybe type it in the chat, or you guys can like raise your hand. And then if like the workshop host can help choose people, because I can't see. Oh, Steve. Was Steve, was your question what's a simp? Oh wait.
Oh no.
I think so. Olivia. So Olivia asked if we could still plan events but have it on Zoom. I think, yeah, like I think it would be up to you, because yeah, my club, I think Kiana said her club has been doing that. My club has also been doing events on Zoom, but for like our larger scale event, like the ones that you want more member attendance and you want to be more meaningful, I definitely think you should maybe like leave it for when we finally get to see everyone in person. But if you don't think but yeah, I think definitely like judging your club, and if you think that it would be able to work out well. What do you guys think?
I feel like it really depends on the type of event that you want to host online. so like while doing tabletop service or such as workshops like these. But yeah, the type of events does really matter and how to incorporate it into Zoom and do the usage of Zoom.
So definitely like me and my committee we've planned fall training conference, which is like super large scale event. So like when we did this workshop, we were worried about like, a lot of people, their main thing is planning like smaller scale events. But also like we've had like a range of positions. So hopefully that helped. And I know there's also a lot of like other guests here who also have planned like some of the events we mentioned, like probably like Masquerade Ball or Kids Rock, if you guys wanted to like come up and like maybe say your experience or do you guys have any like other questions? Or like anything you're worried about, I would say. Definitely I had like some things like with this whole like COVID-19 thing, like I was like, how are we gonna do certain things, Oh, for a sign-in link, it'll be posted at the end. Okay, if not, we're going to end this workshop. So this is our contact information. If you guys wanted to ask us any more questions, you could like Facebook message us or email us, maybe call us, but if I see a unknown number, then I probably wouldn't pick it up. And yeah, this is the QR code to sign in, and also the link, I think they'll post it in the chat.
Mindy asked a question. Our aesthetic of events.
Wait, Mindy?
Uh-huh.
So I think, well, I mean, I'm personally a graphic design major, so I feel like I'm very biased towards branding. But I think it depends on the events. Like some events, having like a theme or like branding really helps bring the whole event together. But if it's like a smaller scale event, I don't think you would need to worry about that part as much. But I definitely think it helps. On like social media and stuff like that, having like a consistent branding or an aesthetic for a certain event. But yeah, that's it for our workshop. Jason actually drew these cute doodles of us. And thanks for coming.